Hello everyone, in continuation we are going to talk about object-oriented programming or OOP. The reason why we prefer using OOP compared with conventional programming is that it provides us with an environment called a class. A class is simply an environment that we can put all the stuff we need inside it. For instance, if you are facing with a programming project containing a lot of functions, you can put all those functions inside a class. You don't need to necessarily write them one by one and make them to work independently. You can just put them in one environment, in one block, in one packet that we just call it a class. And then at the very beginning of the class, we can initiate the class. That is, like, we can introduce all the attributes, all the variables, all the values, and then those variables and values get into all those functions automatically. That's why then calling those functions and using them throughout the program is far easier. In order to clarify my explanations, I just prepared a really simple example here. That is to calculate the area and perimeter of a rectangle. Just imagine that we have a rectangle shape with the width W and length L, and we're going to calculate the area and also the perimeter. So we have two functions, one for calculating the area, one for calculating the perimeter. But I'm not going to write these two functions separately. I just want to put them together in a class in order to show you like how to use OOP in your programming projects. Okay, let's start doing that. To define a class, we can simply use the word class. So by this word, just a class can be defined, and of course we need a name for that. So let me type rectangle. This rectangle name is just something that I selected. It's the name of my class. And then I start initiation. to define the initiation, so I use the keyword def to define, and then I put two underscores for initiate, and then again two underscore, and then after that I define all the variables that we plan to use in our model. So first of all, I use a keyword called self. Self is the handle of variable, okay? And then after the self, I define all the variables in a row. It's like, let's say, for instance, we have two variables. We have the width and we have the length. So this self is just the handle for this value. It's just when we're gonna plug in this variable into the functions, we can just simply use the handles instead of using the variables. So here I would say, what is the self.length? I define it simply as length, and also self.width, I simply define it as width. That's all. That's by this way the definition is already completed. Then I go to define all the function. How many functions we have, it's okay. We can just define them inside the class environment. So I define the first function. Let's say we call it calculate area. This is just the name of the function. And what is the input variable for this function? I just use self. When I use self, then because self already contains the width and length, so that's why the OOP is actually easy to use. Okay, then what would be the return of this function? We calculate the area as a width times length, right? So it's gonna be self dot length times self dot width. This is gonna be the return of this function. Then let's go to the next function. That is, I name this function as calculate perimeter, and the input is just the handle of our variable, that is the self. And then what would be the return? The return will be 2 times self.length plus self.width. And that's all. All the functions are already defined and our class environment is already completed. Let's go to the next section. Now I'm going to make an object of the class. Like I can put the title as create the class, or create the object, create an object of the class. Okay, the object is actually the class, but the variables are already specified. So I just call it rectangle by the small r. That would be, I need to call my class, so I use its name, that is rectangle by the capital R. And then I specify the variable. We have two variables, width and length. Let's say width is 5 and length is 10, okay? That's gonna be the object. So this object contains all the functions because it's actually the class, but with specific variables, right? We already specified the variables. So we can simply use this object in order to call the functions. Okay, let's do that. I go to the next section, which is calculate the area and perimeter. So for the area, I'll just use my object here, this one, and I'll put it here, dot the function to calculate the area, which is this one. So what would be the input? Nothing, because the input is already defined for the object, right? We don't need any input. That's why using the OOP is actually easy. The next is perimeter. So I use this object here, the rectangle, dot the name of the function, which is calculate perimeter, and we need no input. That's all. And by this way, we already finished calculating the area and perimeter. We can also print the result. So print the result. So maybe I can use the prompt print. Let me write some explanations, like the area of the rectangle will be, of course, the area. And also print the perimeter of the rectangle, which will be the perimeter. Okay, that's all. We just need to run the code. I start running the class. So here it's already run with no error. And then I continue with the object. This is also okay. Then I continue with calculating the area and perimeter, that is like calling the functions. And finally, I'll print the result. And that is the area of the rectangle is calculated as 50 and the perimeter 30. That is all. This is the way that we can use OOP in our programming. I hope you enjoyed this training video, and I hope that you can use OOP in your programming project. Thank you.